I was more interested in, I want to find the YouTube, but I didn't get to see it on. Public television. I watched the YouTube video last night. Under the radar.
Oh.
That's what I. Oh, yeah.
We are,
You were kind of. You tried mightily, but wait. Okay.
Absolutely 100%.
All right,
Okay.
let's get started. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Minutes, please, roll call.
Yes.
Here.
Small.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Brady.
Here.
Brumman. Here. No further today.
Oh, you know what? That's. Clap a hand for me, 'cause I forgot.
No, maybe
To say some
not
extra.
taking the floor thing and they maybe that.
Say some extra prayers later on. We'll start right off with the business of equalization office. We have some guests to help us guide us a little bit on this situation that we're having, and Craig has done a lot of legwork to speak to these people, so I think it would be prudent to have Craig kick off the conversation.
Sure, I can. So, in making sure, so the board was kind of questioning whether or not our equalization office was in. And this is just me, Terry was involved in it. I just made some phone calls, so. In order to make sure that we were up to date with the vacancy of the director's position, I went ahead and Troy gave me the name of who to call at the state level. I had a conversation with Doreen, I believe that's upper left-hand corner. So her and I talked for, I don't know, it was a little bit, and I asked her if she'd be willing to zoom into us and give us an update on what we have had or where we were and what we need to have going forward. So with that, you guys can take it away if you want. I don't have anything more to add.
Well, let's introduce both of them first. I apologize, I didn't do that. Go ahead, Craig.
So Doreen Dewald, Doreen was the IASCO equalization, and Doreen, why don't you do the rest of the introductions?
hold on.
Oh, am I muted?
Almost there.
Okay.
All right, it still says she was muted out there.
He's the second one.
We've changed, if you can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, so we had a little issue in our last meeting, so we've changed our IT over,
In the corner.
or our technology a little bit, so we're still getting there.
Upper right, there's
What are
a
you saying?
microphone. Go to your upper right, the screen, see that microphone with line through it.
Yep, that's for Daniel Holland.
If you go to her specific.
Yeah, she's unmuted. So I'm trying to figure out why.
Can you hear me now?
With that little microphone.
You're unmuted on your side, Doreen, for sure?
Ooh,
No,
I'm
she
muted.
muted herself. Hold on.
Muted.
Yeah, I hear it.
Now I'm not.
He is not.
Okay, can you
We
hear
tested
me?
it earlier and it worked.
Bear with us, apologize.
Let me try something. Can you hear me now?
Now in that white section, you see those three dots where it says invite, mute all, no, go over to the right further. Down.
Can you hear me now?
Wow, so we gotta make sure their volume is turned up on. What's it called?
Hold on.
Speaker
I
down?
think it's the speakers. he
Right
showed
there,
me something.
where you had, where the three dots were, there was a speaker that was not checked.
Yeah, but he checked echo on the speakers. Hold on, I have the instructions over here.
Also, I can't.
The audio. This one's that said echo speakers, and that's what we needed to do. Just don't remember what it was.
Speakers are generally over where you are with the volume. Oh, middle, what's that in the middle left? What's it?
I can't. Remember. Where it's at.
Can you just type it in the search? Yeah, right there, yeah.
Not it. Nope.
Can you search the Echo speaker then?
Yeah. No.
Nope.
Not something actually on the speaker, is it?
No. Does anybody have a cell phone they can call John really quick? He said, thank you.
He said I couldn't connect it with the
Just ask him where the echo part is. The echo speaker. Please.
Hey. Man, get off your iPad here. You gotta help me.
Oh, I just found it.
Okay, can you talk to Trina? She can't get the speaker on. There you go.
She just found it.
Doreen, can you try to say
Right.
something?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, John, something about the echo.
Right, yeah, you need to click on the audio thing in the bottom left, and then it's gonna say echo for this and echo for this. You have to highlight echo on both sides.
Okay, Doreen, can you say something?
Hello?
Here, sorry, I just didn't remember where that one part was.
Everybody's gotta go, like,
Thanks.
You can hear me now?
Got you now. Thank you very much.
Okay. William Mason, my supervisor, may need to be let into the Zoom. And Daniel Holland typed in what into your chat webinar. He also needs to be able to speak because he is the manager of our field operations section.
Hello,
Okay,
it says that I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right, there we go.
You can raise your hand if you can hear me, then I can see. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
William Mason is not in the waiting area.
We don't show William Mason anywhere trying to get in or anything, so.
Okay, I think we can proceed without him. What kind of questions do you have for us that you'd like to have us address? I did put a message in your chat. When it comes to advertising for an equalization director, I think that was one of the questions that I heard earlier. Because any applicant needs to be certified by the State Tax Commission, it doesn't typically make sense to put general advertisement in newspapers because most of the directors will never find that, or most of the people that are certified at the proper level. The Michigan Assessors Association maintains a newsletter, and that's typically where a lot of the people looking to change jobs would go to find an ad. And that they are located at maa-usa.org. That's maa-usa.org, and I can type that into the chat. Actually, Doreen, could you type that in while I'm talking? And then the MAAD also has a new website that they just announced yesterday morning, actually. I was at a meeting where they presented their new website, and that is maed-usa.org. So very similar to MAA's website as far as the URL on that. What I've seen lately happening is counties or local units will send direct to the associations and basically their advertisement and ask them to send it out. I mostly see that happening with the Equalization Directors Association, and their president that was elected yesterday at the meeting is Jamie Hauserman. She was the vice president last year, and this year she's the president. So I'm sure she'd be happy to send that out for you.
Jamie Hausman is the president of the Michigan.
Association of Equalization Directors, or what we call MAED.
Got it.
The one thing, Doreen, if I could have you speak to, I know you're the one, you and I. Can you just let the board know, we were just curious, making sure everything was up to date in the office, and at this point, we are good for at least, we have a report due in the end of August, right?
Well, I did receive Troy's preliminary 4015s that he has sent out to the local units. He's given me a backup, and I've pulled my parcels to come review. Today I talked to Lauren, and she sent me a new backup. But as far as currently what I see, it's on track. But again, field work needs to continue, and it does take a lot of time to do field work. Your land value analysis, your ECF analysis, and putting the whole package together, the whole study together.
So, Daniel, if you could, I guess where we're at is we're kind of flip-flopping between contracted services, hiring. There's all kinds of, we've asked, kind of consulting with Shyla, what was her last name?
Shyla.
Mecosta County.
Yeah.
And she's been giving good information. We've been emailing back and forth with her. Contracted services are a big part of what's going on right now in the state. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I'm seeing it happening more and more just because there seems to be less qualified people to take these positions, just like you notice probably in lots of your departments at the county. We're seeing this across the state. I think a lot of it has to do with the type of relationship you're used to there in the county. There are ways that you can have a contractor, but also have somebody on site. So let's say that if you hire a deputy and have that deputy on site, then your director doesn't need to necessarily be on site. There are some counties where the director does not have a deputy and there is nobody on site. It's totally contracted out. It just depends on what you're used to in your county. If you're used to having people come up to the equalization director's office and asking for whatever kind of records or things, and that's just generally known in the community, it can be kind of an abrupt change to all of a sudden not have anybody on site. Also, if you have unions, sometimes there's considerations whereby you can't have a contract director, or you have to have specific language added to their contract to accommodate unions. So if you are a unionized county and there's unionized staff, you may not necessarily be able to do that with your existing contracts. It just depends on the terms of those contracts.
So there's one other question. So Shyla sent an email to us today. And we had been under the impression, and I guess it was county policy that has been going on for years, was that any position, any staff position in the office had to have certification, at least NCAT. Is that not true?
No, that is true. The other positions in the office do need to be certified. Now, the previous question was about contract versus employee for your equalization director, but you can even have employees of the contractor. So let me clarify this. So you might have a company called Advanced Assessing, and that's just a made-up name. But Advanced Assessing really would not have the contract with you, or they might, it depends on how you word it. But they would have to have a certified person at that contractor that would assume the responsibilities and sign the studies. They could also have employees on their payroll that would work at your office. But like I say, it just depends on your insurance. There's so much to consider, like your insurance and what you typically operate under. Are you a unionized counties where your people that work in equalization are union?
2 positions in equalization that are unionized. The director
Okay.
wasn't. So
Okay,
we have staff positions that weren't certified, that the director, who is non-union, could sign their studies, and they wouldn't necessarily have to be certified appraisers and go out and do field work.
No. The new guidelines from the State Tax Commission in the last couple of years do require anybody that works in the equalization department on equalization items, or has contact with the public, that they be certified.
That's with a minimum MCAT.
Minimum of an MCAT, correct.
Thank you.
I want to apologize, everyone, for coming in late. Zoom is not my forte, so we're here now, though.
Thank you, Bill.
So thanks for, Bill, you can introduce yourself. We kind of got started without you, so.
Yeah,
My name's-
I was listening to bits and pieces as I was trying to work through this. But yes, my name is Bill Mason. I'm the supervisor for District 2, which Alcona County falls within. And you've already met Doreen. She's the analyst for your county that reports to the State Tax Commission, the qualities of the studies. And of course, Dan being the section manager for our division. But yeah, thank you for reaching out to us and asking some pertinent questions. Be glad to try to help you through this transition.
This director position has only changed about every, what is it, 17, 18 years. So this one was more abrupt than past ones, so we appreciate your patience with us. And so I mean, I can ask questions if anybody else has any. Could you kind of elaborate a little bit? What's our timeline? What kind, is there a requirement we have to have a director seated in a certain amount of time, or do we have some time, or what's our, how long before you're gonna send us a letter that's really not nice?
Those dates are not defined in statute. Statute says that you shall appoint equalization director, and that director will have control over the department. So to refresh my memory, currently you are without a director, is that correct?
About a week.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that. For a week now?
A week.
Okay. The world's not going to come to an end next week if you don't, but what's going to happen is you can get to a point where there are loss of traction, loss of progress with your studies. Do you typically do your appraisal studies in-house? So your people that are employed by the county are doing your appraisal studies and entering your deeds and that type of thing?
We had a senior appraiser who also left at the same time as our director, so her and our description clerk who has her MCAO, right? So she was in training for the appraiser position. So yes, they have done their own studies. That's kind of where we're at. She's left. There's only one person left in the office. She's not in the appraiser position at this time, but that's the one person. But yeah, we've done all our own studies, all our own appraisals.
So you may find that with the other two people gone, that one person, it takes up pretty much all their time just getting deeds entered and answering questions and taking care of general things in the office. What you can find is that you get you get so far behind that it does cause problems. The other thing too is without having somebody there to maximize the productivity of your staff, the staff may not know on their own what needs to get done to keep on track. So not trying to be evasive at all, but the statute does not say what the consequences are directly for not having it filled within a month or 2 months or 2 weeks. But what can happen is we get far enough down the road where we decide that you're not making adequate process, then we have to make an internal decision to do what's called an enhanced study. And at that point, that means we are planning on whatever studies you come up with, you still have to do that. But whatever studies you come up with, we are planning on using our values to override yours in the end, which means that you end up paying for our work to do that, which is why we want to be proactive and help you get to the point where you've got a new director on staff or through a contract as soon as possible. It is always unfortunate to have this happen, especially when you lose 2 people, because one of the things you're going to find, and I can't say how much because I have no idea where you were at with salaries and things, you will probably be very shocked at what it takes to get people to come in and do this job. It's gotten to be highly technical, and it's not an easy profession to be in. It's all 3 of us here from the state that you're seeing, Doreen and Bill and myself, have been equalization directors, and it is highly complex. And the people that do it want to be paid, and it's amazing the salaries they're getting today. It's crazy. So I just throw that out there to let you know that you're probably better off not putting salaries in your ads and kind of feeling that out as you go. Because if you have an expectation and you say, this is what we're going to pay, you can turn everybody off and they won't even look at your ads. And you won't hear from people. So just kind of a heads up on that one. It's not easy. We face the same thing at the state, and at the state level, you would think that we have, 1,500 plus assessors and out there that we could have come work for us at the state. But the problem we have is most of those people don't live in the Lansing area. And it's difficult for us to get people, and our benefit package and things are pretty good. So yes, I would say that you're going to want to keep in touch with Doreen on a regular basis, give her an update on where you're at. I would recommend that you possibly have somebody come in on a short-term contract, maybe month by month until you get this filled, where they can make sure that you're on track with your processes in your office so that your staff people are, have maximum productivity. You don't have to wait to get your director to fill the appraisal position. However, what you might find is that if you hire a contract company, that company oftentimes has staff that they will then designate to do the appraisal studies in your county. And so that is a decision you might want to make up front on whether or not you would consider a contract company versus only hiring somebody to be an employee.
I think at least 1 or 2 of the contractors I talked with were really lean toward having their own appraiser. They weren't really interested in a county appraiser because they do have to sign for that, and it's their responsibility. So that, going forward for the board doesn't know that.
Yes.
Yeah, we did see that. Any other questions? I don't hear any other questions, but kind of on a different note, I had a conversation with one of our officers from one of our units, and he has a concern. He's an assessor, and he is concerned from what he sees for contracted services. And I said I would ask this question. So he sees appraisers on these contract services utilizing assessor cards to complete their appraisals, or at least he can't prove it, but he's fairly confident that that's happening. And that in the end could end up hurting us for revenue. And I just wonder, is the state doing anything to make sure these contracted services have some oversight. Not that it couldn't happen in a county office, I can see that, but it seems like there's a little more oversight in a county office than there is in a contracted services situation. I wondered if you guys were addressing, making sure equalization appraisers are actually putting feet on the ground when they do their studies and not just using assessor cards.
Well, I think that I think it's probably a common practice that just for cost efficiency, to start with the assessor's card and take that out when they're doing their measurements. Therefore, you're just verifying the measurements. And then when you come back to the office, you do your own sketch. Some of the companies today are using a product out there, a software product called Pivot Point, where they actually do the drawings and everything and the updating of their records right on site. It also then aids in, you know, if you have an assessor that's doing very good quality work and you happen to find one that is just way off, it's like, boy, these people didn't pull building permits, they did demos, they did additions, they did new buildings, they didn't pull any permits. It allows them then to see that and have a conversation with the assessor, because if that is left in the study and it is very abnormal, it can skew the study. So there's reasons that they do that. We do review a certain number of appraisals in every class in every county. And when we find that there's discrepancies, there's times where we actually then go out and do more and look at them to determine. We did find, for an example, this last year in one county, the quality of their studies seemed to go down. And when we asked them about it, we discovered that they did not go out that year. They didn't necessarily use the assessor's cards. They reuse cards that they'd done in the past, but things change every year. I think that you would find that like when a local unit goes out and does field work, they will probably find on more than 50% of the parcels new and additions or loss and losses. And that's why the STC recommends a minimum of 20% a year, so they get through all the parcels in a 5-year period. Now, it's not quite the same at the county, because you're not doing the primary assessment function. But that is something that you would want to have a conversation with your equalization director on what their policy is. If you want to put in your contract that they may not use the assessor's record cards even as a starting point, you're welcome to put that in your contract. Just keep in mind, though, that if they don't have that, it will take them longer to do their field work, and it may be a little more difficult for them to have some meaningful conversations when they find those parcels that are really out of line from what the norm is that they're seeing when they do their appraisal inspections. I don't know, Bill, do you have anything to add to that? I tried to keep it short, but concise.
It is common practice to start with the assessor's card, take it into the field, and use that as your base point to compare with what's actually on site. The equalization department will then make their notes and do their measurements and come up with their record card in the end. And then what is typically done, then the equalization department or appraiser will get with that assessor and say, and let them know that they found this or these differences on these two cards. But in the end, it is the director's study. So, the appraisers under him that are doing the work, the director needs to check that or be responsible for that, because in the end, it is that study that director is submitting to the state, and it's under that director's certification. So, but yeah, that's all I got to add to that.
A little bit, because I don't think what his concern was that they shouldn't get the card at all. What his concern was, and I think a little bit of it is he's a small unit assessor and he sees all these big dollars going for appraisers and these contracted companies making and charging all these dollars. He's concerned, or he thinks he's seen where the contracted appraiser never sets foot on the property. They simply look at the assessor's card and say, well, that's what it is. I sign off on it. That's good. So, from my point of view, that's what I don't want to see. And I just wonder if you guys have a way to, are looking at ways to say, how do we keep that from happening? That we actually know that our equalization appraiser is going out and doing the job. I mean, I can't follow them as a commissioner. I don't know if they're going, they say they are, so you assume they are. But it was just, that's kind of an off side of it. And I promised him I would ask you guys, because he sees it as a kind of an issue going forward. The more contracted services there are, they're out there to make a buck. And if they can find a way not to have to actually put their foot on the ground, that saves time. It doesn't help us as a county because there could be lost revenue there, but.
I think what we see in the industry as a whole is that when that kind of thing happens, and I'm not saying it doesn't, because every once in a while we do hear something like that happening, that it's a small community and that person's name gets passed around and then nobody hires them. And that's not a place you want to be as a certified, assessor in Michigan, because next thing you know, you can't get any work.
Well, Doreen can vouch for this, because when I started doing all this stuff a couple of weeks ago, you guys all talk. I mean, everybody knows everything. So I definitely found that out, that you're a pretty small, tight knit group.
Yes, we are. So one of the other things too is that there's a process that you can have in place in your county. And I don't know if you've done it in the past or not done it, but a pre-March border review audit of all the local unit assessment rolls. That's a pre-March border review audit. It really helps ensure that your assessors are putting things where they should be as far as head leaf for new and loss and additions and losses.
An audit
You know,
done by
so the MAED, the Michigan Association of Equalization Directors, has an equalization manual, and they talk in there about how that should be done. And I realize that to have that in your contract might be more money, but I highly recommend it, because those things that are not properly accounted for, that are caught in a pre-March border review audit, can end up costing, I'm not talking about just money that flows into the county, but all your taxing entities. It can cost them revenue, and you wouldn't even know that it's sliding through the cracks. And that is something that a good equalization director will do for you.
Okay.
I have a question about counties that are using contract services without having any staff on the ground at the county itself. Are you aware of counties that are doing that right now, that I could go research how they communicate with the public, how that works?
I'm not particularly myself aware of how that plays out across the state. I don't know if Bill or Doreen know, and some of this we can't get down into the weeds on. We'd have to say your best bet would be to pick up the phone and call some of the surrounding counties, especially maybe counties that are of similar size, similar SEV, similar parcel count, similar mix on classes of property, and ask them how they're structured. There's also an MAED salary survey, and that does contain a lot of that type of information. I don't know if they share that out with the counties or not, but you could ask about that. But keep in mind that if you look at a salary survey, I think in there it will show you the structure of their office. But my point on it mostly is that when you're looking at existing salaries, you have people that are tied into either a defined benefit or a defined contribution. Sometimes the more experienced directors are, they've got 5 years or less and they don't care to move no matter what they're making. It gets real difficult to compare what somebody's currently making to what it takes to get them to move. So I just throw that out there, that if you do manage to get a salary survey from MAED to look at that makeup of the whole office, that if you're looking at the salaries and think you can match to get somebody to move, you might find that's not the case. I don't know, Doreen or Bill, do you have any other thoughts on that? I don't think we keep track of exactly how the offices are staffed, or, that's more of an internal county.
It is. Now, the MAED survey would be a good resource. I'd get with contact them and request, see if they'll share that with you.
I believe they posted on their website. At least I've
Right.
seen it on their website before.
It's been a while since I've been on their website, but yeah, a good resource, great resource.
Good. Their website is a good resource.
Figure out if there are actually counties that don't have any. The question, I guess, is that, if we were to go talk to a contract service for everything, so, people want to have it, gather information or get information from the equalization department. Are you experienced with any counties that are doing that service where they contact the contractor directly? How does, you know what I'm saying? Guess
Yeah,
not.
typically what I see is they'll have a county staff member in the county office, and that'll be the contact point.
So that's
That's
the norm.
typically what I see. Yeah, and the rest of the services are contracted, where the director and or appraiser work remotely and are sometimes, it's your prerogative to request they be in the office one day a month, 1 day a week, whatever agreement is.
We have special- Our director has gone out and started his own contracting service. Happened anywhere else in the state where the county would hire back that contracting service? Where their director goes to a contractor and then contracts back with the county?
I have heard of such things happening. I don't know exactly which counties are where, because we typically don't, concern ourselves with those types of issues as long as the work is done properly. I think it's more of what you see as the Board of Commissioners, and the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, you are responsible for the department, for keeping them on track. Now, there's one document that we are updating, and it should be going to the State Tax Commission for approval here on August 22nd, and that is the Equalization Essential Duties Checklist that Doreen has spent with me in the last probably year and a half updating that document. That is a document that is worth you looking through. We do have the current version, but I think the new one that's going to come out in August is a lot better. That's called the County Equalization Essential Duties Checklist. And Doreen, if you could type that into the chat there, that would be helpful so they could see it. But that's a good guide for you to use as you administer your department, because for most counties, like you said, the last director was there a lot of years. I think if I remember right, it was like 18 or 20 years. You get to a certain point where things run smooth and you don't worry about it. But you are still responsible no matter how long they are there. And some of the counties that we've actually ended up having in a corrective plan have found that directors that are there for a long period of time slack in different ways. And part of the reason we put this checklist together is so that you can sit down and have a conversation with your director on what are you doing about this, what are you doing about that, and seeing what they have to respond back with. And you'll find too that if you do go with a contract director, you can put clauses in there that allow you to review that and make adjustments, depending on what your preferences are and what your constituents, what your residents, your taxpayers in your county are asking for. If they're reliant on that department for different things and you don't think that it's adequate, then you make changes. And they're, for the most part, they're willing to sit down and talk to you about that because they want that long-term working relationship with you. So.
Okay, anybody else have questions? Carolyn? Well, I really appreciate you guys coming to talk to us. I mean, we're coming in as pretty blind. Like I said, we got kind of cozy with having somebody for a very long time and just kind of putting on autopilot, how it goes. So we all need to get our ducks in a row and figure out what we're gonna do next.
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned it, Dan, but that they reach out to the MAA, MAED for
Yes.
advertising and perhaps get a list of MAOs from Lansing at the equalization.
So you can even get, yes, you can even get mailing labels from the State Tax Commission. And that email address is on the State Tax Commission website. You can send over a request and say that I need, it's easier to remember level 3 and level 4 than Michigan Advanced or Michigan Master Assessing Officers. But you could ask for mailing labels and just mail your ad directly to all of them, and you'll find that there's not that many. And that's the pool that you can choose from.
Yeah, the drawback with that is that you're sending it to level 3s all over the state, and it's hard to
Yes.
to refine that into just your area is nearly impossible, only unless you sift through all the addresses, the mailing addresses, once you get that list. But yeah, it's just another resource.
So, however, in some cases it has worked having directors from a long ways away. There's Luce County in the Upper Peninsula. They only have 4 units, 4 townships, and the director is all the way from lower southeast Michigan, Monroe County. However, he was very experienced. He's a level 4, and it's worked out. He actually likes that because it lets him see things in that area of the state that he doesn't have down, south of Detroit where he's at. So you can benefit sometimes by just sending it to everybody. But if you definitely want to have somebody there that's, can come into the office if you call them, that's kind of hard to do if they're, 300 miles away.
Okay, once again, thanks for all your input and answering our questions. I'm sure we have your emails, so we bother you a little more over the course of events.
Okay.
And stuff, we'll shoot you some questions.
Okay.
All
Very
right.
good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So, one of the reasons why, excited, let's have a special meeting is that, we set the motion to go ahead and start seeking out, whether it's gonna be a full-time employee here or contract, we need to start sending out, requests for information. We have some stuff to work with.
So I thought I printed it off, so I sent the email to everybody responding to Shyla, some of her questions. And I don't, the printer didn't print it again. No, it's an actual spreadsheet.
Oh,
That spreadsheet that she sent, did everybody get that, didn't they? But they don't when they got it, so she had a list of 10 counties, northeast Michigan, asked for. Yeah, and it shows all the studies, and she asked for her information, what the wages were, what they're paying. I got through 6 of them, I think it was. Dr. Aranak, Sheboygan, Crawford, Alpena, I know what Asco was doing, I think 6 of them. And then my email I sent back to everybody, the range was 60 to 70 for hired directors, 130 to 150 for contracted services in those surrounding counties. All of them have a person in their office. Even the contracted services ones have somebody there full-time, manning the window or answering questions. And none of them that I talked with are running it with only contracted services. Only Aranak County has contracted director with a county appraiser. Their contracted director is there's 2 people. There's an appraiser, and then there's a description clerk probably, or somebody who mans the window. The appraiser does measuring and appraisal work. The director is actually from Nuevo County, and he's never there. He only zooms in, he signs the studies. Let's see, let me follow
So
through here.
there's 3 in the office. Well,
Two.
there's 3 in the department.
well, there's two county employees and a contracted director. Right. And that's kind of, on our size county, that's what is going on around us. I did have, and I didn't give it because I didn't know yet, so. I did contact Jamie Hauserman, who I guess got elected as president. So she's the Roscommon Equalization Director, and I thought I emailed that to you also. I didn't email that. I saw that. Yeah. So she's the Roscommon Equalization Director. She also operates a contracted services. She currently is contracting with Antrim County and many different units within counties. She had a cover letter. She did not send an official proposal because I didn't ask her to. But she said she would possibly be interested in contracted services. She was one who was not interested in having a county employee be an appraiser, though. She has her own appraiser. Doesn't mean she wouldn't, just means that at first blush, she was not interested in that. She was not interested, well, I shouldn't say, I don't want to speak for her. I mentioned short-term time, that wasn't really jumping for joy on a month-by-month basis. I tried to contact Alan Berg from Hillman, got no answer. He didn't return any calls, never did hear anything from him. The ones, Preston, I think is their name. They were the ones who were Asco County. I didn't get any answer back from them also. So I got Jamie, and I would be remiss if Terry and I both asked Troy and Aaron, their company, give a proposal. They did. I know they had said at the meeting that they weren't going to do that, but having talked with Troy, he has since said he would consider the proposal if we were interested. So, and one of his proposals was a short-term 3 months, and then until we decide what we're going to do and move on from there. We should also talk about the costs. Does that cover? I mean, as much as we could do more, and I'm not saying I'm all inclusive, but that's what I did quite a bit of stuff for our surrounding area on contracted services.
What we need to do today is have a motion on the books that says to authorize. I'll make a motion to authorize.
Hold on, if we make any motion, so I think we need more. So consider also, if we want to move right to the union discussions that we had. So the union is not really going to accommodate removing either of those jobs. So they want to continue the appraiser, senior appraiser job there and the description. Their position was the contract will open in a year. If you want to do something in a negotiation, we will. But at this time, they're not really interested in changing that. So it would be tough. Jamie was talking in terms of, and I think even Troy and Aaron, their contract they have with IASCO, which I don't know what they do for us, included appraiser and director jobs. So if we have an appraiser on staff, we'd be paying a lot more money if we were going to pay for our own appraiser plus their appraiser plus their director. So I think we need, if we want a contract, we got to go out for some proposals. Say, we can send one to Jamie, we can send one to Troy, we can send to whoever. Give it, we're looking at, do we want a short-term 3-month proposal in order for us to either advertise for a position and try to get somebody to work for us? Or do we want a 3-month to give us time to get our feet under us, address our union issues, and then go out for usually these are 3-year contracts for contracted services, and what would we want to contract for? The short term, as Mr. Holland said, would give us month-to-month coverage, depending upon what they would work with on our office. We're gonna need an appraiser. I mean, so we got that whole issue to deal with too. But so before I want you to, before you make a motion, you have all the information on what you're motioning for. But yeah.
But most directors want their own appraiser. So is that the problem?
Well, the two contracted ones that I talked to have their own appraisers. They pay them to do that. So those directors sign the work of the appraiser, so they want somebody they know and trust. That isn't to say that our appraiser and would be that maybe they could do that. I don't want to take some.
Well, you split the union, we're not for a year. We're not gonna do much because the union says they want those two.
Well, for the union, so we do have, we have an appraiser position open. And Lauren fills the description for the position. So she is qualified for the appraiser position if we're we're going to fill that, she would be the one who would fill that, so we would have an appraiser.
Which, as they said, up there. This has to continue, it can't stop for months. You have to continue doing field work. If that's not being done, we're gonna get behind.
So right now, we don't have an appraiser, so we're not doing any studies of any sort until we move somebody into that appraiser position. So those studies could be getting done even without a director. But it'd be good to have a director of some sort contracted in some way.
May I speculate on? I don't know if I want to speculate. Our options. What option am I missing? Okay, we could go with an advertisement for a short term or a long term
Contract
Director.
service.
director. We could, with that, we could go for a advertising for a position that would be an appraiser. Which would be similar to what we have.
Well, before you go that, so we probably cannot, we're not gonna be able, so we have a union
We have a
contract
union
that dictates.
That's true, but that's what we could do.
Well, we could, but
Challenge us with.
we're gonna challenge, yeah, okay,
So,
good.
or we can look at, and we can look at a part-time, even 3 months type of thing, director to fill the necessary obligations to the state. I mean, that's kind of our bottom line. We don't want to fall behind, and we also want to make sure that our paperwork is in and in properly.
So the things that would be falling behind on are the things that the appraiser does, not the director.
But the director ends up having to sign it and get it sent. to the
Right, but if he
state.
doesn't have anybody doing it. He needs somebody to do it so he can sign it, so we
So
have
our
to
hands
have.
are tied because we're obligated to
The union.
through the union
Most
contract.
directors want to go crazy.
Only two have said that, and that could possibly be negotiated.
But that makes good sense. If I were a director and I had to sign off and put my name on the dotted line to the state, I'm gonna wanna make sure it's somebody that I trust and that I know what they're doing. So, I think, now, that's not to say you wouldn't find somebody. You
Now,
might do it without it being their own person.
so this is, I'm not saying that. So we have an employee in the room here who is qualified to take the appraiser position, who by union and by contract is entitled to the position if we open it up. And we would have to go through a big fight to probably, if we want to try and get rid of that position. So I think, and money wise, probably the most affordable way to go. Is to have our own employee fill the appraiser position.
Has it been signed off from by all of the union people?
Yeah.
All the union people have
Yeah.
signed off on it, or the time it's expired.
Everybody, yeah, that was done. So there's nobody who is, so that part of it is taken care of. Lauren is the heir apparent if we're gonna continue in the position. If we, so there is, let's go that route for a second. If we move our current description clerk into the appraiser position. Hire a new description clerk. And now we hire just a director. We hire somebody to fill only that position, which would be probably
I
considerably.
thought you put somebody in, hired somebody to be the appraiser or the.
That would be,
Description.
well, we would have to, if nobody wants it in the union, then we would put that job out to
So
hire.
you'd be hiring two.
Right, yeah, one contracted, one employee. So,
Oh,
right, so Lauren would move to the appraiser position. We would contract with a new equalization director. And then we would hire a new description clerk to replace Lauren's position. So we would continue to have 3 people. Our director would now be contracted instead of an employee. And the other 2 would be that's just an option. I'm not saying that's the way to go, but that would probably be the
Most economical.
most economical if the contracted. Director is willing to accept our appraisers' field studies. Is that fair, Lauren? And you, I mean. Yeah, I mean, that's what would have to happen. So you've been around a director. You
Yeah.
understand they have to sign your work.
Right.
So, and that's the conversation I had with was, I think if they came in and they perhaps was our appraiser and said, you know, and maybe, I don't know, if they make you jump through.
Who appropriate, whoever decides to do this contract down the road. Their understanding is going to have to be, we have a union position here that does this appraisal well. And for 1 year, though it could be negotiated or at least looked at, doesn't mean it could be changed.
Right.
We're going to have to do that, and that, whoever that person is that we hired, is going to have to understand that.
The opposite of that, the converse of that would be, we begin our fight with the union and try to get those two positions taken out. We go and find, which is gonna cost money, they've already promised us that.
Yeah,
And then,
they're gonna fight.
and then we would have to contract services for both appraiser and director position. And we still are gonna want somebody in the office to have a face to answer phones. Do so on and so forth, but remember that. Under the first scenario, with Lauren still there and a new description clerk, we have two people in the office to answer phones and go to the door. If we go the other route. The contracted services for director and appraiser, we won't see them. Most of them don't come around. We would be down to one person in the office.
Well, and I think that one person needs to be able to respond to someone at the door and the phone. Obviously not some time necessary, but needs to be a visible entity.
Or the other instances, we don't go to one person only, we keep two, then we don't have to worry.
Well, yeah, you might, if they're both back off.
Sure.
They're not truly visible.
I don't have all, that's not conclusive information, but I mean.
But I think our advertising needs to be any or all of the above. So it's another an ad to have someone, a contract service for a year, a contracted service for 3 years. And maybe we advertise for a 3 month contracted service. I don't know.
Well,
I think
we need to know, that's why we're here, I mean, that's, so
Well-
we gotta go, are we gonna send out RFPs, request for proposals from contractors? Are we gonna put an ad in the Michigan Equalization Directors
It
people?
goes in there for both contractors and for directors.
Possibly, I don't know, I mean, we certainly can ask. You know, we can put out an ad for hiring an equalization director. Is that a motion from somebody, or we wanna start that process? We can also then.
Stay broad.
And we can also, at the same time, put out a request for proposals for a 3-month and a 1-year contract for equalization services.
I think we need a Band-Aid on this
Well,
right away.
Do we need to lock it into 1 or 3 years? Can't we just say, can't we just have an ad that says? Because if we do it through the MAED. Magazine or whatever. That's gonna cover contractors and it's gonna be everybody.
And they're very vague, sorry, they're very vague descriptions. I have a pile of them on my desk if you wanna look through them.
So, because if we start talking, because then they can come in and at least propose something to us. Here's what we do, you know, because if we go in there and say, we're looking specifically for this and this, we're not gonna get any responses. But if we go in and tackle this in a broader sense where, well, I don't know, but if we say, Alcona County is looking to fill the needs of equalization department. Either with full-time or contract, and you know, all these people can come back and say, okay, this is interesting, you know, here's. Maybe somebody wants to move this area and they want to be a full-time here, or contractors. If we try to go into at this in a way that says, we're looking specifically for this thing, they're gonna, that's not even what we do. Because we don't know enough about how exactly, we know a lot about it, I'm not saying that, but we don't know.
So that's what we were kind of looking for our last meeting. Do we as a board want to employ a director? Or do we want to have contracted services for a director?
Without having numbers in front of us to determine if it's legit either way. You know, that this way, if we advertise both ways, we have enough information to decide which one is more cost effective.
Well, yeah, but I think then you're letting them dictate the terms. What do we want? Do we want to have somebody hired? If we do. If we want to have our own employee in that position, then let's go at it from that direction. See if we can find a contractor for a short term, give us the time to get director things out and see if somebody wants to move here from some other county and be our director. Do we want that, or do we, because if we don't care, then the quickest, simplest way, because the money's not gonna almost make a difference. It's gonna be the same either way, whether it's contracted or hiring somebody. I think we need to make a decision whether we go, we want to hire a director and make it an employee, then we go at that as hard as we can until we run out of steam and can't find anybody or get no apps. But in order to do that, we're gonna have to contract with somebody on a short-term basis. And I don't know if, contracted people get all that stuff. Maybe they do, I don't know. When you send out
Well, it's a list of everybody in the state,
Everybody.
everybody has a certification.
yeah, that's true.
We get emails every day.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but they're very vague. They don't, a lot of them will just say, we need an MAAO. No salary, no nothing, anyone qualified, please put your resume or whatever into this email. A lot of them don't have salary, a lot of them don't say if it's a description clerk, appraiser position, a director position. They're very vague. And that's what, that's through that. Michigan Assessors Association that we get those.
So I had an example director posting. We did put that out there, and you might be right, maybe a contractor will see that and say, we could add some language in it that says we are accepting both employee type.
I think we looked for,
Yeah,
and it's gonna make a hard line.
We can add a line in that says that,
I mean, yeah, that's it.
okay,
And do we want to do like a short term? Contracted for 3 months while we're doing. The search for either a contractor or a employee.
well, it's gonna take that long to find somebody.
That's why.
That's what I'll figure it out. We're gonna take.
Yeah. I mean, it's not gonna happen in a month or two. This is gonna be so if that's the way we're gonna go, then we do have a short-term proposal from Northeast, whoever Troy and I are in on now, for a 3-month,
It's not one that gets signed.
a 3-month contract. And then from there, I guess you go from, you have it, I never did see it. though. So
You send it to us so we can talk
Yeah.
more at the meeting next week.
Yep. So we have a dollar amount and everything that is there. There is, there is some simplicity to it in that it's their office, so they know it's out. It's gonna happen. It's been getting done. I've already done. Until I know for sure that this is the,
Well, this is what you've given
right.
so long ago, I don't know if that's gonna be.
I don't wanna give the numbers out right now, but I'll give it, well, maybe it doesn't even have that, see?
Right bottom.
On the last page. This is for the 3-month one?
Yeah, I think so.
No, this is the job vacancy announcement. This is-
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is for equalization director, that he's got. The only reason, I'm not saying this dollar amount for any reason other than if there's another contracted services that are watching this. And we do want to go out for proposals, I don't want them to know what this proposal is. Okay.
Just give it a quick.
I think. Okay. So
Or
we're
have
having
Troy, or have Troy, or whatever, either way, just email it.
Well, what I can do, if you'd like, we can have personnel, I can put a request out to, I know we have the Jamie Hauserman. She's expressed an interest, so I can send her. And I can send Troy and say, those are the 2 that have contacted us. Give us a proposal on the 3-month. That's unfair.
I'll make a motion, we do that.
Okay.
You start to say, you already know.
Is your motion, please?
Hang on.
Motion that we get, ask for a 3-month, contract
As a
proposal
from these.
from Troy's company and Jamie Hauser.
And myself.
That's preliminary, you know, we can also have, that's one motion, there's way more motions about this. Any other discussion? Let's do a roll call.
Johnston,
Yes.
Yax,
Yes.
Brumman,
I know you call.
This is the only one, so. We'll still have, probably if she puts one in.
Oh, it's 3 months and then there's the beer one.
Yeah.
I think you should try.
Certainly, when receiving the proposal, we would have the opportunity to discuss the proposal.
Yeah.
You want to change it with them, then that's what we do.
This isn't a motion that we're gonna accept either one either. It's just a
Right.
motion to pursue.
To get proposal.
Wait a minute,
We're not accepting anything. This is just to get a proposal
from him.
from
only?
it. No.
No, him and
Okay, yes,
Hauser,
yes.
because those are the two we know we can get proposals from between now and.
Expressed an interest already.
You know, short term, take shorter. I think much.
He doesn't have a license.
Give up the license.
Brumman,
He
Yes.
said.
Oh, Brady, give me a while.
Yes.
Thank you,
Small,
Yes.
thank you for clarifying.
Another motion would be to advertise with the MAEB, no, MAED,
And the Michigan
and
Equalization
MAA.
Association. There's two of them, wasn't there?
Yeah, MAA and the MAED. Vacancy, a vacancy for. Right, two vacancies.
Only director. This would have-
Oh, you're right, only director, I bet.
Do you wanna do it contracted and
Yes,
employee?
yeah, we wanna get
Want both options.
both ways.
So you're looking at this motion as being within the next 3 months after. a short-
No, this is,
We want
But
to start right.
start looking right now.
What? Is my question.
because when these people reply between now and the thing, we can get some short term out of them too. Right now, we're just fishing for interest.
We produced a job vacancy announcement. We can go with that one. If it's that or not, to make sure it gets around. I thought I put it out. So what's your motion?
Motion to authorize advertisement for both full-time and contracted position for authorized equalization director.
For both of those two things. Or advertise it.
Yeah, wherever, but these are two places that can go, okay?
So we know that. It's something.
Put it up in the news, I don't care, I'm just saying, but these are good pointers here to advertise here for sure.
I'll second that.
Move in a second. Any other discussion?
How is this going to be motion?
It's different in that, in the motion we just made, we're gonna immediately pursue the two, what we know can give us some, for the 3 month.
Or short term.
This is for the long term.
Very likely, those two could apply for this one too.
Did the first motion include reaching out to others, not just those?
No, just those two, because we knew that they had interest already.
And we want
So we'll send this out to. This motion will cover, we can use the information gathered from this motion to potentially fulfill the short term if we get responses in time.
Why
So-
would we not also advertise for the short term? Outside those two individuals.
We can, but what I don't wanna do is pigeonhole it, so people just, I'd rather just say we're interested in fulfilling these positions. That way, when they respond, we say, here's what we're looking at, we're looking at short term to get over the hump and the long term. You know what I'm saying? Because if we start trying to pigeonhole this stuff in, people are gonna disregard this based on, it's too specific. Because they might have different ways that they do their,
do we want to include in
Contracting.
in your motion, do you want to include some reference to we are also accepting contracted services? Because this is exclusively for employee. This
That's what I'm
includes our
talking about.
benefits, this includes, okay.
The motion wouldn't even have, so when you are asking, that it would be a vague ad, it would say we're looking for equalization director. Option one, full-time employee, option
So
two,
if they request
contract
information
services.
as an employee, we have this one. If
Yep.
you're gonna be a contracted services.
Yes.
Okay.
We have that,
Okay.
that starts that discussion.
Yep.
Right?
So we'll have both available for the clerk, so if you get any kind of hits. And somebody says, I'm interested in being your director,
That hey gets immediately sent to,
yeah, but if they're
Board of
not
Commissioners.
only to be your director, I wanna be your contracted services, okay, this is what we're looking for. All right,
that information comes to personnel and the rest of the
so
director.
we want a fairly general, vague
Yes.
Correct.
request for, okay,
We're looking to fill equalization director position. Option one, full-time, option two, contracting.
got it. Okay.
So you'll create that description.
I will, and you'll look it over and make sure Terry and I know what we're doing. Make it sound
Sure.
all official, guys.
Cause I know what you guys all do.
Go around. Good one. Okay, oh, you got a motion that way. I didn't know that.
I second that.
Yep.
Who decided? Karen? Get a pregnant home.
It was, and urgency is going to pass until you vote on your motion, then I have just a passing comment
Okay,
that I want to address to.
okay.
Right.
Any other comments? Okay, well, then we'll do a roll call on this one too.
Small,
Yes.
Brumman,
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Carolyn?
You see that I don't have to, there are no goes gifts to people. Thanks for their time today.
Oh, yes, I will.
Anything else we need to address right now about equalization?
Yes, so what do we have? We need to make a decision on appointing or moving our, filling our appraiser position. We have no appraiser, so no studies are getting, nothing's happening now at the appraiser level. It has been sent around to all the unions that nobody else wants the job, nobody else wants this job. We talked to the union yesterday. Lauren is the only one who's qualified to take the job. And she's entitled to it. Given what our description of the job is at this time. So we have to, I don't know if we officially make her that position or how we do that.
We don't have a director.
Yeah, we are the new management.
Can we,
Equalization.
can we do that next Wednesday? So we can all, and not there's nothing to think about, I'm just saying that I don't want it to be like, oh, automatically this. And because, you know,
Just so you understand, she's not doing, so there's the things that need to get done aren't getting done. So the sooner we get it done, more quicker she can get out and start doing those studies.
I would make that motion to work that.
Well, then. We have to get,
You gotta support that. Sorry. There's a motion. I'll support it. There, now you can die.
so we would have, job vacancy for,
Description for it. So then that would be our next motion if we have
the
the,
problem is she's not gonna be able to do the appraiser job, because no one's gonna be in there for the description clerk and the answer phones or.
so that's gonna happen. So, correct. So if she goes to the appraiser job, she's gonna be out of the office. There'll be nobody in there. So now we have to hire a new description clerk. That'll go around the union if there's anybody qualified or wants it. And then for that position, you don't have to have anything to get into the job. I think our policy has been, what is it, six months?
I think it's 6 months, they'll offer, the first MCAT class that's offered, they would have to go and attend and pass.
So you have to have an MCAT to have to work in one of those positions in the office. So whoever came in for that new job would have to, if they don't have an MCAT, would have to get one. And then that would, she would, or he would be that Lauren's position now, and then Lauren would be the appraiser. So we'd have that window covered. But that's, first of all, we gotta decide if we're gonna fill the position with Lauren for appraiser, so she can start the studies. Then we gotta put hands out for the.
It seemed to me that we should have the office open the full, both all day Monday and all day Friday.
It would be, we don't do field work on Monday or Friday.
So I think as we haven't had, I do feel like. You step on me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the union is willing to work with us, understanding that we're in a difficult situation. And I think Lauren is also, so even if she moved up to the appraiser position. You're still gonna answer phones, you're still gonna take care of everything you can while you're in the office. Even though it may fit into the description clerks.
Well, that's where answering phones is anyone's responsibility, whether what job description you
Right.
have in that office. Helping people that walk up to the door is. If I were to move into the only two things that would come up would be deeds and land divisions. That would have to still be processed of my job currently. Because land divisions only have 45 days for approval and deeds still have to be kept up to get RPSs out that I would be doing as an appraiser. Is sending RPSs out, filing them, pulling new cards for the following year. Which I have talked, we talked about this yesterday, we didn't bring it up because we weren't sure. Which would be kind of like what you did when you didn't have someone down at MSU. Okay, so I will temporarily continue
So for a short time. you
those
overlap.
things. For a small stipend, basically, like we did with MSU and.
You request more money for your position. if you
Yes.
get both
For just the temporarily,
Temporarily.
yes,
Is she working more hours?
No.
no,
No more hours.
Then you don't need to increase pay.
it would be a stipend to do the work of another union member. Just like they did down in MSU.
I think we leave it where she is until we have this resolved.
Well, we don't have a result.
No, what we can do is get somebody for the clerk position, and then
They're not going to be able to answer some of the questions that they may be asked. Once she could enter with her current.
no, but they could do the land split divisions. The critical path here is keeping somebody that can do the land splits and division. Because those are
Well,
the things
I
that are
would-
gonna be ongoing.
I don't know, I think I would. I'm considering what they said, I think the critical thing is getting these studies done and make sure these reports get done.
Well, but if I'm a landowner and I wanna split my stuff up and I can't get a division until December, I'm
And
gonna be
it's
pretty
statute
bad.
that has to be approved within 45 days.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's the urgency part here. The state's gonna forgive us a little bit if we have a hard time filling that position for a few months, but. Property owners trying to get their splits done and stuff like that, they're the ones that are gonna be
Is
dang.
that a contract though? That you have with the townships for land division?
Was that included in the?
I
one
don't
you
have
have
any, I
anyway?
don't know if it's a contract.
It is a contract.
Yeah.
Contract, yeah.
I didn't know
Which
one
is
you got.
contracted with the county, which is
Right.
actually could be done within the units itself, kind of like the tax roll prep was done here.
Right, the assessor.
We had a contract. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's not possible for me to do it
Well,
temporarily.
do it next Wednesday. They're in the field on Friday and Monday, that it's Tuesday. Will give us a better, how we get a wrap around and get it.
We will, and I will contact Union and see where they're willing to come down on as far as having one of their members work. Overlapping jobs for a short period of time. I don't want to negotiate with you in here, so I don't.
No, that's fine.
So,
Every other office, did your office have, is it absolute black and white what Amy does? Or does she do additional things as needed?
additional things. as needed.
Do your people? Not Trina, Tina and, not Robert. Does she do additional things besides her little square? If she's asked? Thank you.
That was what Tony had told me to say, so.
So that's
that was
why I'm
directed
keeping it in
from
the union.
Yeah,
Well, this is a union request,
that's why today's not a good day to.
so I don't want to negotiate that out. We'll talk with Tony when it comes to what that clerk is. that position. So if you want to wait for a week, and then we'll have time to talk with the union and say,
Well, he said it's not even a week if they're not in the field on Friday and Mondays.
Yeah.
All we have is Tuesday, Wednesday is our commission meeting,
okay,
and it'll give us time to kind of, I mean. if we're gonna-
we will make an inquiry of the union on what we can do or what they will do for us.
I feel a lot better.
Make a motion to table that motion till Wednesday then.
Is somebody gonna make that motion?
I just didn't.
Tim,
Support.
You're supporting his.
There was a motion already on the table to move Lauren into the position of assessor. Not
And
assessor.
it was supported. I
Great.
And it was supported, Craig supported, so
Now we had
now
a bunch of discussion. And
now
now,
we're gonna table that until the next meeting. That's my motion,
I second that.
seconded by Dave.
It's all.
All those in favor?
I,
Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Okay, motion carried. Noting that, Terry opposed.
yeah, I think we're. The boat is, the water's not coming over the edge right now.
Okay.
Decommission boat, so.
We have some forward motion on getting some stuff.
We do.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Do we want to address the purpose spot and advertise that or?
Oh, we don't talk to union,
Yeah.
because they have the first choice.
We're in the, yeah, they have first choice, so we're kind of gonna be in the same boat as asking them to cover us for a month or two until we get it covered, yeah. So it's the same as the director position. We're just asking person.
Okay. The only thing, if we're done with that, I want to talk about say,
I
sorry,
just have one quick question. So your overall view is keeping the office kind of as it is. With technically two people in the office, one in or out, depending on contracted service. Is that my understanding, what direction you're headed in? Or potentially?
Option 1 and 2.
I get
I
that option 1 or 2, but you're gonna have 2 union employees for the next year.
Probably.
Sitting there
unless
and
we fight
possibly a
against-
director.
unless we-
Right, okay, so I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
figure out what the dynamics are.
we don't have a road on how to handle the union part of it yet. So it's, can't make a decision like they don't think
Oh, no, I was just looking for what your thought process was moving forward.
it's just sticky.
It is.
Yeah, well, you find an awesome director that wants the contract and gives a great deal, but he's not willing to. He wants his own appraiser that kind of throws
We're gonna have to wait a year and negotiate.
Yeah, no, well, that's,
So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Kind of bound by that contract, unless we want to fight it. I'm not sure that was a financial. We should do financial.
Yeah, it's all like her. Everything. So, okay, next up, is the, Cheryl, if you would so
The
please help me on this, but, the
Secure-
SRS.
Yep. Secure Rural Schools Act. You all have that, I'm sure you watched the PowerPoint on it to see how to make your choices. And in 2008, we elected in the last election, put a board together. Spearhead, this is Carolyn Brown's writing.
Oh, 2008. we did this last.
Yeah,
Okay.
that has to be done every summer.
So here's,
well, yes, it automatically defaulted on the last update.
You know that you're on anyways.
so we continue to receive those funds, we just haven't done anything with them?
We do, I allocate them to the townships, 20 townships get a portion and the schools get a portion.
Okay. We were-
75-25.
we will continue, so the motion today that I was gonna make, continue that practice, so once we make that motion, I have to tell the state that's what we intend to do.
But then we have to form a committee
Well, there should be a committee form.
that you said that, I mean, that was supposed to be formed before.
It was,
Oh, it was.
yep.
But the committee at that time probably decided to go
But
ahead and do the
those people are no longer
75,
here.
25 or whatever she just said, right?
No, that's how it,
Percentage.
that's the allocation. The schools get a percentage of.
Oh,
the
that's just how it
township.
works.
We get nothing,
So the
I just
committee,
get more
the
work.
committee is
to
moved
split it up.
because we don't get to decide any of the.
No, but you have to enforce and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to.
With that money.
That committee should be
Okay,
reviewing and making sure that those projects and things were getting done. It's very vague for the schools, but it's quite specific for the townships portion, which is working on roads in the forest. And I
Oh, here's the road. I think that has to do with the cutting of the timber in the national forest. Okay, and they're giving back money to the system so that the townships who are in this maintain the roads that are, their
within,
bulk cuts are tearing up. For example, Aspen Valley, they built that road and they're giving a township money to keep that road up. Okay. So sometimes I know the road commission has used quite a bit of that, but that's all right too. But
so that's it.
it's a push. Give me a motion.
So the motion is to accept the fund. Number one. So I have a second.
I'll second.
Move to second. Continue to accept the fund.
under the same premise.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Premise being. As we distributed before, you mean?
That's what I want.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. So accept the funds and distribute as we have. On the last round.
On a 25% 7-year rolling average,
Right.
receiving the full amount.
Correct. Well, that's the motion.
Terry, you were the second.
I say.
Any more discussion? We're doing it all along. But there's another motion after this, I was. Anyway, so roll call please.
Brumman.
Yes.
Yax.
Yes.
Johnston. Brumman. I'm sorry, Brady.
Yeah,
Small.
you get two votes. Pretty good. And then I can just go ahead and appoint people to this committee, right? We don't have to make a motion to form a committee. I'll be one of them, obviously. It's- Okay, so now I'll excuse the dog, ask the rest of the people if they want to be on my belief.
I would be.
Oh, there, okay, so the committee will be myself and Terry. Two people enough for that committee?
I wasn't involved.
Do you want to be on the committee?
Absolutely not.
Dang it. All right. Let's go make a committee. So we'll form that committee. So that takes care of that business. Last piece of business is that it was asked that we can have a closed session to talk about police union negotiations. We ready to do that?
Yeah.
So
Make a motion to go into closed session.
move a second. All those in favor? Yes? Yes.
Can you, before you, yes?
That is a roll call. That is the one thing that is a roll call.
Roll call.
Okay.
Before we yes,
That's
what?
fine.
Cheryl,
Nope,
what do you
you're
need?
fine. I
Brumman.
was just gonna say authorize me to send that allocation to the.
Oh, let's do that first. Motion to authorize. Oh, you're gonna send a notification to him? That'd be awesome. Thank you. For Cheryl to send the notification,
For the US Forest Service.
to the US Forest Service. Second by Terry. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Now, we'll go to the motion. You were first, Terry was second, go to the session. Yeah, we'll do a roll call.
Yax.
Yeah.
Johnston.
Go ahead.
I'm unaware of a written communication that came to the county asking to negotiate a union contract.
Hey.
Thank you.
Okay.
Adam, before you leave,
Just-
just sign off.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
All right, roll call closed session.
Yax.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
Brumman.
No.
Small.
Yes.
Brady.
Yes.
All right, in answer to your question,
We have got, one, but we need to turn off.
But I don't think we've given it the full, yeah, maybe, did we not give it to the full board?
We can just leave it off.
That we
I
got.
never,
Hang on,
You may not,
hang on.
So there has been
You mute
a
that stuff?
request.
You mute the video and.
Oh, yeah, I thought you just told me to hang on.
No, I'm talking
all top shelf.
He goes,
And I'm
"I
in
called
it.
him," I said, "You wouldn't get
And
that."
I said, I
You wouldn't even know
texted
I